money, like what's the difference as a player in saying these games are meaningless when, Des, we played in quote-unquote meaningless games. I mean, I know you guys were here a lot, but I just don't understand. If you don't make it to the playoff, how is it meaningless to play football and compete? Isn't that what we do as football players? We compete. So I don't know if changing and expanding it is going to change anything. I really don't. I think this era of player just doesn't love football.
ESPN's Kirk Herbstreit just doesn't get it.
That's what I was about to say. We're dealing with a total different mentality when we're dealing with these student athletes nowadays, especially the football players. I mean, their whole mentality right now is about the championship, the playoff. We got to get into the CFB or the CFP. And because of that, they don't value the bowl games. Now, when we were coming up, Herbstreit and myself, like to go to a bowl game was a huge reward for a fantastic season. That's what it meant. It's like, okay, your team played this well, so you're going to be rewarded by going to this bowl game. You're going to get a ring. You're going to get swag.
And Desmond Howard, former Michigan standout, piles on.
Now, kids don't really care about that. They have a sense of entitlement. And it's like, if we're not going to the one that matters, then, it just doesn't have as much value to them as it did us growing up.
What these analysts are doing is making themselves unlikable and unrelatable. Sports, like society, has evolved. The onus is on those whose minds are stuck in the back when I played or back when I watched sports was this way kind of shtick that must mature and grow as well. Kirk Herbstreit and Desmond Howard are a primo example of not doing so. The analysts clearly targeted Ohio State's Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, plus Pitt's Kenny Pickett and Michigan State's Kenneth Walker III, who chose to prep for the NFL draft over playing in their teams as bowl games. Going into the Sugar Bowl, Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral was deemed a top 8 pick in many mock drafts. He chose to play and suffered what appeared to be a serious ankle injury.
Love of football has gotten Kirk Herbstreit all of the things that he wanted from life, and now because kids won't play in a made-for-television stupidity that is college football during a pandemic, Herbstreit has to apologize and walk back the idea that he's telling kids that are sitting out bowl games that they owe him something as the only guy at ESPN who gets to fly in a private jet because of what flies over as injustice, that sport. He's telling the kids they don't love the game because they're opting out of bowl games. As I'm watching bowl games all over the place, and I'm alarmed by the number of injuries.
Ex-ESPN mega host Dan Le Batard sees the writing on the wall and is continually validated by what transpired. In years past, other players have competed in these quote-unquote meaningless bowl games and paid the price. Literally. Enter Jalen Smith of Notre Dame. In 2016, Smith was a top 5 pick until he tore his ACL and MCL, plus suffered severe nerve damage in the Fiesta Bowl. Because of this, Smith was selected in the middle of the second round, and NFL analysts said he lost at least $15 million. Michigan tight end Jake Butt competed in the Orange Bowl in 2016. He tore his ACL in the game, slid to round 5, and is now a practice squad player for the Chicago Bears. Not only did he lose an approximated $3 million, he lost the opportunity to potentially become the player he could have been in the NFL. Some of these players have pro aspirations in mind and may see college as a stepping stone, but to borrow a quote from the NCAA, most of us go pro in something other than sports. A lot of these players are playing because they do love the game, because if they're not going to the NFL, why would they play in the first place, wrote Awful Announcing.
And the bowl structure, the entirety of it, is a total contrivance that's been protected for 15 years. That these are all just little... Barstool's recognized that they bought one because they're going cheaper now than ever because you can have a 3-hour commercial on television, a made-for-TV scam where everyone makes the money except for the labor.
Mark Ernay shared great perspective on the evolution of the bowl game as well. In 1951, there were a measly 8 bowl games. When Herbstreit played at Ohio State from 88 to 93, the bowl format grew. Today, there were a total of 43, with a good amount canceled due to COVID. Many seemingly are meaningless, Kirk.
Kirk Herbstreit is the most powerful college football voice there is. And what he said was keep the system the way that it was so that it conveniences me and us. and not the players.
40 of those 43 air on a Disney-owned network, and 59 unranked teams were set to play in a bowl game this season. When 2/3 of the teams qualify and are scheduled to play in a bowl game, it's no longer special to go to a bowl game. No offense, but if someone actually has pro aspirations, there's no reason for them to risk tearing their ACL to try and win the prestigious Boca Raton Bowl. We haven't even mentioned the Brian Kellys or the Lincoln Rileys who skipped town right before their team's bowl game to go to another school. Where was the criticism? You see, the writing on the wall is just so easy to see with what they do and do not accept. The Nation's Dave Zirin wrote, I think Kirk Herbstreit loves football. He just doesn't love the youth who are actually playing it. He resents that they aren't willing to settle for the things that he was willing to settle for. Players are opting out of bowl games to preserve their bodies for potentially lucrative NFL careers. Both Herbstreit and Howard know that football is a dangerous game, and the chance to get a second contract in the NFL and set yourself up financially for life is one that outweighs the risk of playing in an exhibition game for many players. Players opting out of bowl games aren't guaranteed to make anything near the money playing football that Howard and Herbstreit currently do talking about college football on TV. This whole mind-numbing, stupidity-filled analysis of they just don't love the game anymore is hogwash. As we said previously, if they didn't love the game, why did they put in all the hours to get to where they are currently and then also pursuing a career in the National Football League? It just does not make sense. What Herbstreit and Howard are doing, though, is rather simple. Our employer, ESPN, makes big bucks on bowl games and specifically the college football playoff. Every sports center during the season mentions it. There are college football playoff announcement shows, college football playoff analysis shows, paid analysts come on like Herbstreit, so on and so forth to talk about bowl games and the college football playoff, mainly because it is the central focus of ESPN's programming for a good amount of the college football season. The tone-deaf part of it all is that it's the sport's own role in reducing bowl games to risky, inconsequential sideshows. The people in charge have done the damage, not the players who opt out. Jason Gay of the Wall Street Journal put it like this: ESPN helped create the playoff that diminished its own bowls and simultaneously turns the NFL Combine and Draft into a critical career-making spectacle. Not only is this a retrograde take, it's an all-time hot dog suit. We're all trying to find out who did this take, which you might remember from that incredible show on Netflix.
I want everyone to see the choice that's been made from their sports entity and then make your own decisions on that, and just understand that everything you're witnessing right now is laid naked bare business. And Kirk Herbstreit protected management on that one. He protected the unjust system, and the backlash he caught made him, Stugotz, he had to clarify. And I was surprised by that. I was surprised that the tide has turned so that young people can make Kirk Herbstreit feel like dad or grandpa as the voice of college football.
It just screams, get off my lawn. It screams, yeah, the problem is the youth. When really, as we just expounded upon, the finger should be pointed in many other areas than just that, the players.